Right. Good. Thank you. Thanks, Ben. So I included a picture here, just so if I'm not the person you expected to be looking at for the next 20 minutes, you can kind of sneak out the back now. It's fine. I won't mind at all. As Ben said, I've spent my career so far in the IoT before the IoT was called the IoT, machine-to-machine, telematics, all sorts of names for the things that we build, things that send data to a central point that can be analyzed. I spent the last few years lucky enough to work with folks like Robert, helping to build out LoRa and LoRaWAN, prior to which I spent a number of years with Hitachi building the Lumada IoT platform, which was designed to deliver 100 years of Hitachi's R&D know-how in the form of code, which it did quite successfully, and pioneered concepts like digital twins, as well as embedded solutions. I spent a number of years with Microsoft. I was lucky enough to start a project that eventually, through the work of many brilliant people, turned into Azure IoT. And before that, like many of us, I started out in cellular, working for Telefonica or O2, right back in those early days of 3G, when 3G was going to solve all the world's problems and it was going to connect everything. A bit like people talk about 5G today, except we're now sunsetting 3G and 5G will probably follow in a few years' time when we give up on that. And I've also run businesses that build custom IoT solutions, so heavyweight predictive maintenance solutions, all the way through to monitored vending machines, which I think everybody in IoT has built at some point. And now I work providing advisory support, non-board, board advisory support to companies who are innovating across the hardware, connectivity, and application space. So I want to start my presentation today with really a very simple question, but one that I think is probably front of mind for everybody here, not only in this room, but in the hall outside. And that is, why is the IoT quite so important? It's what we talk about all the time. And there's one very simple reason for that. And that's because embracing IoT technologies is like granting the earth a voice to share its story. Through interconnected sensors, we can listen to the voice of nature, the pulse of ecosystems, and the rhythm of climate change. As we collect and analyze this data, we gain the power to make informed decisions, and decisions that nurture our planet for future generations. IoT enables us to transform environmental challenges into opportunities. It allows us to orchestrate actions that really do resonate across communities, across continents. And IoT empowers us to be guardians of our home. It enables us to deliver a future where every device becomes a beacon on the path towards a greener, healthier world. It's also pretty clear, and the numbers change and flex over the years and billions and trillions, it's pretty clear that based on our best understanding, the potential market for the IoT is huge, and it's projected to grow. And that message has not really changed the more that we've learned about the technologies and about customers' needs for those technologies. Which kind of begs a really obvious question to me. If the IoT is so fantastic, if the value is so clear, why isn't everybody doing it? What's not working? Well, the truth is that lots of companies are looking for answers. The problem today is less about customers' business case for IoT, which I think has become increasingly clear and correspondingly increasingly less sophisticated in most instances. Customers are able to identify simple problems that sensor data can help them solve more effectively than they can today. The issue is more to do with the vast range of choices that customers face. And the real issue with that is that the more choices, as you all know, that you have in front of you, the longer the decision process takes. And honestly, part of that is down to us. We have built a vast range of tools that target different challenges in building, using, or managing IoT solutions. The problem is, and speaking from personal experience, when we built these toolkits, we were thinking more about specific challenges very often than we were about the actual end-to-end problems that our customers were trying to solve. Part of that is due to the inherent nature of the IoT. It's complicated. You've got to think about connectivity, you've got to think about devices, you've got to think about security and identity and zero trust and edge computing and device management, access control, privacy. There's myriad things that we have to contemplate when we're trying to solve customers' problems. And that's before you even get into starting to think about how you synthesize and manage OT data, which is, after all, what IoT generates, together with IT data, to analyze it, to identify opportunities, or to turn that analysis into some form of outcome. And because of this complexity, thinking holistically, thinking end-to-end, or building tools for everything that actually work together, building a single toolkit that kind of does everything, is actually very difficult indeed. And part of it is we worked to build differentiation into these toolkits. Funded by VCs or enterprises, focused more perhaps on a successful exit or beating competitors, or dare I say, locking customers in, by providing something different or better than everyone else. Or, honestly, by our own egos, thinking that we were able to solve the entire problem ourselves without help from others. And we were focused on those things more than we were focused on meeting the needs or goals of customers when it came to the IoT. And that differentiation created nothing but complexity for customers. But the biggest issue of all, I think, and also one of our own making, is the way we have often traditionally thought about and designed IoT solutions. We design them as toolkits for software developers who are going to build the solutions that we need to save the planet for future generations. And don't get me wrong, software developers are incredibly important. They are very important players in this ecosystem, and we need to understand them, and we need to support them and provide them with great tools. But as the name suggests, the core concept of the IoT combines information technology on the one hand with operational technology on the other. And it's in the world of operational technology, the real physical world, where things break down, where things get lost, where the actual value of much of what we're talking about is realized. So while we've spent a great deal of time, and again, personally, I can attest to this, we spent a great deal of time thinking very deeply about the needs of software developers when it came to the IoT. It's actually the people that need to use IoT solutions that we need to listen to more and understand. And while those people might be very technical, very scientific in nature, they generally tend not to be software developers first. But just like most things, sometimes when we look to the past, we gain insights about what we need to do next. Now, speaking as someone who lived through them, I can categorically tell you that the 90s taught us an awful lot, some of which I can actually still remember, about bad hair, about dodgy nylon tracksuits, about appallingly low-fidelity animation, by today's standards at least, and actually quite prophetically, about how creating and broadcasting content live from your parents' basement, like Wayne and Garth in Wayne's World, was actually going to be a thing in the future. Perhaps if we'd all listened to that a little bit more, we'd all be millionaire YouTubers right now. But the 90s also showed us something else as well. It showed us what happened when you gave companies access to affordable, standardized, customizable, off-the-shelf solutions. Solutions that helped company managers and leaders everywhere implement best-of-breed processes into their own businesses. How to manage the rhythm of their business all the way from the resources that they bought and consumed through the products they made and shipped to customers. These solutions centralized data so that it could be analyzed holistically. They provided easy integrations with existing IT systems so that you didn't have to change all of the IT side or the OT side of the shop. You could just kind of nest it in there and it would be able to suck data from multiple legacy systems. It provided standardized and best-of-breed practices, as I said, and it also automated common tasks so that you didn't actually have to expend man-hours on doing the simple, repetitive things. You could just allocate that to the system and the system would take care of it. They supported scalability, so as your business grew, it flexed, you could expand. They supported growth, and that growth support was designed into the product. But most of all, they supported collaboration across a business, across the operational parts of the business and the IT parts of the business, if you like, so that companies could orchestrate their actions to produce a better outcome, whether that outcome was a better product, more profitability, more revenue, whatever the goal that they sought was. And I would argue that sounds extremely familiar to me when you start thinking about the IoT and what customers are trying to do with the IoT. And when it comes down to it, what customers really want is simple. But simple doesn't mean and can't mean one answer, one solution. And I see a lot of IoT platforms that deliver, the label's different, the name of the use case is different, but fundamentally what's inside is exactly the same. It means solutions that are easy to use. And we all talk about the consumerization of IT, et cetera, but it's true. Customers, particularly customers who are not software developers first, need an easy-to-use interface. Production line managers or process control engineers, regular people, need to be able to interact with these systems and customize them themselves without having to call IT or without having to call an expensive consultant to come in and adjust the system to their purposes. And just like ERP, which customers really, in the most case, customers implemented ERP systems not to own an ERP system. They implemented ERP systems because they came with the best-of-breed processes. If I was running a small manufacturing operation and I implemented an ERP system, I could take advantage of the thousands of other customers who had implemented that system and the knowledge that had been extracted from those customers on how you do this best that was embedded into the product. In IoT, we need to give customers more than just great tools they can do what they want with. We need to give them tools that come with added insights and expertise, tools that come with an opinion on how they should be structuring their business, how they should be operating particular process flows, so that they don't have to start from scratch and they can instead rely on the learnings of others that come as part of the products and services that we deliver, so that they can get to value more quickly. And when you look at what's happening in the IoT, one of the big factors is, we call it time to market, we call it speed, it's how quickly I can get from the time when I cut the first check to the time when I see the results. And very often with customers that I've worked with, you're talking multiple years for that process to take place. And a lot of that's due to the fact that they have to build into these tools knowledge of their own business, that if it were already there, they could avoid and actually start delivering value straight out of the box. And ultimately, we all talk about interoperability. I think interoperability is a buzzword. It means different things to different people. But we actually have to make it more real. We actually have to build IoT tools that can be readily integrated together. Not single vendor solutions, but vendor solutions for different components that do the best job for that particular part, but don't stop me using other best tools for other parts of the process. And we need that to reflect the patchwork of different device types, different data types, and different use cases that together make up the IoT. And the good news is that there are an awful lot of engineers, regular people, out there who are waiting for our help. 49 million, again, this is one of those numbers you can pick out from somewhere. I forget which analyst I got that from. But there's a lot. We're talking about people who are mechanical engineers, civil engineers, electrical engineers, chemical engineers, technical consultants, and the like. So, how do we make IoT the voice the planet so desperately needs to support future generations? Well, firstly, we need to understand the world our customers live in. And that means building our products with customers, as many of you already do. The best designed product is one that you design hand in hand with the customer who represents all of the customers that you're trying to service. And taking that knowledge and understanding and feedback and really listening and putting it into the product is key. We need to deliver solutions that are easy to integrate. And that, I think, is one of the biggest sticking points in IoT as a whole, not just with this ecosystem, but we actually need to think first as a design priority about how the tools that we're delivering integrate with other tools. And again, that comes from understanding our customers' worlds and understanding the complexity of those worlds and understanding that there really is no way that we alone can solve all of the problems that they face. We need to make friends across the ecosystem. We need to focus on mutual gain. And I see in LoRaWAN this starting to happen as people realize what they're really good at. And they start working together with others who are really good at other parts of the equation that also need to be solved. So it's somewhat of a question of maturity, but it's also somewhat a question of selflessness. We need to have an informed opinion. And this, I think, of all of the points I've made today is the most important. We need to turn up with domain-relevant expertise and best-of-breed processes that deliver value faster for our customers. And doing that is hard. It's difficult to go out and hire and retain. I tried this a number of times at Microsoft to go hire people from industry. Bringing someone from an automotive background into a software company is a very, very difficult transition. And they leave after 12 months, typically, because they're in an alien world. And so we need to make our businesses receptive to folks that have domain expertise so that they don't turn on their heel and walk out the door. And that's partly attitude, and it's partly language, and it's partly looking for the right people to bring in to provide the expertise that we need. And we need to learn from the past. We need to make IoT solutions that are standardized for an industry and a target problem, perhaps, but customizable, that are off the shelf. So rather than building it myself or paying someone to build it for me, I'm actually riding on the back of all of the R&D expenditure that's gone into building the solution for the 1,000 customers before me that bought it. That I can take advantage of that expenditure and that spread across all of the customers using your products. We can leave the haircuts behind though. But most of all, and to steal Vinka and Johan's favorite phrase, we actually need to build this thing together. Thank you.